Like it's going to be a lot of fun, right? NIP, it's time for a little bit of redemption for them because they came out last week. They came out with the hopes of righting the ship, with getting back to even keel. And, well, John, they got smoked. 1-7. Team Lookwood really took it to them. So NIP against Magic Squad here, an unproven entity. NIP are hoping to bounce back.
Especially on a map like Bank as well, where you can have a lot of similar entities against a map like Villa. For NIP, they struggled a lot with clearing out those initial roamers, gathering info on that first line of defense, and trying to convert, even when they won those entry fights, to a proper execute. So really hoping over this week of time they've had to kind of redeem themselves, sort of maybe during scrims, that they can show that against Magic Squad, which, like the Desk mentioned for a brief moment, that they're still kind of an unknown entity. So going into this, really anything could happen on Bank, especially since both NIP and Magic Squad haven't really played this map all too often in recent times. So it might just be whatever team shows up today, just plays a little more aggressive, could still get the win in the best of one.
John, here's what I'm going to do for all of the viewers at home here. Because the Desk really didn't have time to get to Magic Squad, let's take a quick moment and introduce this team. If you don't already know, that is Gomez, GDN, Rare, Hates, and Hornet in this case. Keep an eye on this team, right? Because they are here in a terrifying Group B to prove themselves. As we just looked at Group B, just the names of the teams in this group, the international prowess that these teams have is unbelievable. You've got FaZe Clan, Liquid, NIP. They're all right next to each other, all competing in the same group just to make the playoffs. It's a little bit ridiculous. So Magic Squad, in their very first game here in the Brazil League this year, they have got a lot to prove. And like you said, John, we're doing it here on Bank with NIP starting out on the defensive side, Magic Squad on the attack. So the onus is on them to set the pace early and show us what they can do.
I like this extension done by NIP as well. Maybe not as willing to give up some sort of opening fight on that top floor, but they're not going to give away the entire map for free. They're still playing a little bit extended on that second floor, playing off by some hatch drop-off, specifically Wizard on that Wamai with some magnets and a deployable shield. So again, Magic Squad, they might be able to get this top floor almost for free, but they can't even work any vertical once they get that done. So they'll have to transition into these immediate lines of defense that NIP have already set up. Not only that, but they've also extended a little bit inside of elevator and server. So once again, once Magic Squad prepare to then move from the first floor down below into the basement, they still have to spend extra time before they can actually hit the go button and maybe try for a defuse.
But like you said, they're making good progress already. They've already cleared their way through that top floor. You see Gomez here on the Ying, making that entry into the first floor. Wizard really going to be that first line of defense to a Magic Squad attack that is continuing to build. They're working their way through. They're getting these hatches open, and they're starting to establish a few lines of sight down onto the objective below. They're also going to train their eye onto top blue, where the smoke of Pino is positioned. Really someone that you've got to be wary of because he could swing this doorway at any moment, but more likely he'll play this one passive and wait for Magic Squad to walk into his open arms.
Once that Surrey Gate pops, you could probably see the smoke grenade begin to detonate as well. Hornet taking a bit of damage from that Surrey Gate, but not a huge issue. At least they won't have to use any extra stuns before, again, hitting that go button. And Hates now dropping down the elevator with a Gemini replicator, just gathering some extra info in case they want to maybe lurk, drop down one of those hatches they've opened up in either the front lobby or the elevator. They'll know when to do so and if it's open.
Here goes Hates, though, following up that Gemini with, well, a little bit of firepower. Fire and flames sent down in from above, and here comes this push. Magic Squad, they're going to take the entry all the way through lockers, and Hornet will claim the opener. GDN following this one up with a quick plant, trying to get this diffuser down, and it looks like that's going to work. Psycho has been cut off, isolated here in the vault. The Thermite has lost his life, but at what cost here for NIP? The bomb is down, and now they have to retake. You've lost Cons. It's a 3v4. And you're fighting an uphill battle. Good kill there from Psycho to ensure that they go 1 for 1, turning this one back even. But the coverage from Magic Squad so far is sufficient. Good kill there from Rare, 1v3, and that's a double kill from Rare to close it out. Magic Squad with a clean opening round to start setting that rhythm.
I mean, clean really is the best way to describe it, Jonah. The second Hates realized that there was no one playing in Vault, there was no one in Elevator, he just dropped down. They figured that was the best option to execute, so they could ignore that entire extension by Blue Stairs and Server. Just get into the thick of it as fast as they can, get the diffuser down, and just play off of that momentum with the man advantage. And a big reason why Magic Squad was allowed to do that was because of how fast Wizard dropped that E2 hatch. He didn't spend any time building up his magnets to then throw them near the deployable shield to waste time. As soon as he felt any bit of pressure from those drones, he just fell off and, went back to the bomb site, which sure, that's not a horrible idea since your entire team comp is built around only extending lightly and then using that basement floor to your advantage as a 5-man anchor, but also because they didn't play it all in that top floor, Magic Squad had a load of time to execute despite having so much utility against them in that basement.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act that you bring up here,
Right.
John, because you're like, you need to control the map and you want to delay the attackers as much as possible. But when it comes down to it, it helps if you are alive when that execute comes in. NIP, they were trying to play that 5v5 execute phase. They weren't trying to give up their lives early. And while that is a good idea at its core, what we saw there from Magic Squad was a team comfortable enough to take the space that Ninjas in Pajamas were allowing them to take. So certainly a good start for Magic Squad, a great way to read into that kind of defense. And it's something that NIP will have to kind of figure out the philosophy on as they move forward throughout the rest of this map. But it's round 2, right? It's a different territory here, but a territory, an open area and kitchen here where we could actually see an even more explosive Magic Squad, considering they can already send a couple of bullets into the site itself from that printer window.
Just stirring up the pot a bit here. Rare throwing out 2 Candelas already, now rotating over inside of E-Box. Just double checking to make sure no one's playing inside of Square for maybe beginning to start entering in the building proper. The rest of Magic Squad, I think, are still trying to extend their way out from the first floor with a little bit of pressure over by the top of Square as well. But NIP, they're still just remaining stagnant, not really trying to get too aggressive against Magic Squad as they do not want to give away that first opening pick. But once again, speaking of that early fallback, Hornet is already inside of Archives and could maybe punish with this long cutoff angle.
Yeah, Hornet can pretty quickly deny rotations here. If NIP want to move around the site or reposition, it's going to be much more difficult than they would probably like. I mean, you see the Ash on the prowl here in top square at the moment, just trying to hunt down any pesky defenders attempting to reposition. Same goes for Gomez, already taking a pretty decent amount of footing here. The only real problem for Magic Squad potentially going forward is the presence of cons down below. You've got the Solus, the potential to inform those other defenders about where that bomb is going down and where Magic Squad are pushing from.
And you see the impact the Solus has on round 2. Magic Squad are so limited on info, they're probably going to have to rely on that final line scan in the Pocket of Hates to either gather a bit of extra info in case someone's still lurking in these final 40 seconds, or they're going to use it just to keep these defenders completely still when they try to execute in these final 40 seconds, which, speaking of Magic Squad, they haven't really found an opening in these last couple of seconds, despite getting so much map control during the mid-round.
Right, they moved in early, but they haven't made much progress since. Now, they're going to make the move. Gomez is going to be the first one to establish that contact on the site. Joined from above, Rare's also going to drop in. NIP will pick up 2 kills, though. Maybe a third here through the wall as Pino's trying to find something, but a nade lands at his feet and freezes him in position. GDN, though, is the last player standing. Tried to get the diffuser on the ground, but NIP simply denied it, out-fragging Magic Squad, who walked into a site that seemed like they weren't quite prepared to take.
Despite having all that info last second as well by Hate's Lion Scan, that only allowed Rare to win the opening gunfight against Psycho. Everyone else on NIP just remained completely steadfast inside of CEO and Kitchen Room. Not CEO, pardon, inside of open area and Kitchen Room. My mistake, as with the help of that Warden, those smoke, stuns, and even the Ying Candelas, they just weren't enough to push back a majority of NIP. And they also had players like the Solus still lurking off the bomb site. So even if there was a lot of pressure being put into the bomb site that racked up a couple of kills for Magic Squad, there was still an insurance policy that Magic Squad had not dealt with during the mid-round because they just had to spend a lot of time trying to work for some sort of opening, and almost walking in blind in a lot of situations because how effective the drone denial was by NIP back in round 2.
Yeah, you brought up that great point during the round itself, because we saw how quickly, within maybe a minute 30, Magic Squad were already cutting off rotations on the site. I mean, they were on the rotate hole in archives to small office. They were looking into open area itself only 90 seconds into the round. The problem was they didn't make a ton of progress, right? From that 90-second mark to the actual execute phase, there were still, right, a ton of Kiva barriers in the site that were bolstering defensive positions. There were still a ton of defenders lurking in spots that Magic Squad just weren't quite prepared for. So again, we applaud that early progress, but just missing a couple of steps as to transitioning from the map control phase to the eventual execute phase. So something they'll be looking to remedy here as we transition to the top floor now. We go to CEO in office to see what NIP can do.
Once again, NIP bringing out the Warden. Great selection. Now they don't even have to fear a potential Ying execute from the CEO windows, which is fairly common for this top floor. And they can deny a lot of secondary utility that Magic Squad is still bringing in round number 3. They have 2 sets of stuns, a couple smokes as well. So depending on what kind of plant they want to go for, it could still be rather challenging with that Warden available, and a lot of other utility that has been brought up by the defense, especially cons on the yokai. If we see another slow round by Magic Squad where they really just can't push back NIP, those yokais could be a make or break factor if they're forced to plant with very little time.
Well, this top-down view that we're getting, it's really helpful to see where Magic Squad are trying to approach from, right? Exactly what their philosophy is in this round. You have a lot of pressure top square, but you also have some players on the rappel, on that north side, getting on those windows and trying to make sure that NIP do not feel comfortable on the site itself. Make sure that they always feel that someone is watching their position, freezing them in place. That kind of thing will allow some Magic Squad players to begin to make their entry. We just saw the Ace, we just saw Hates hopping into stock, but rather trying to get some pressure over towards the Oryx, who is now positioned on the top of those marble stairs, looking towards that skylight.
Luckily, no one's playing there, so he's not going to have to worry about a drop down last second. He could focus almost all of his attention on Hates, who is currently in a rocket of heart space. No proper angles he can hold in these final 40 seconds, more or less just making sure no one can flank up this main hallway.
You see Psycho dancing back and forth here, taking that fight with GDN, but it's Muzi who opens it up with that kill onto Rare. Losing the Dokkaebi here, that's not going to make things any easier for Magic Squad as they look to really get some kind of execute going. The wall opened up, smoke's dumping in, and now is when we're going to see that push, but be careful. You've got a bit of a flank working in from Muzi here. Bomb's going down. Seeing if those yokai drones can deny it, but it's not going to happen just yet. Right now, the focus is below.
Beautiful.
The focus is the Oryx, who successfully worked his way all the way around and denied the plant outright. Cons will get another one, returning us to a 2v2, but now dropping down up above. Now this is a problem for the Oryx. Muzi's going to have to work his way back up. Good kill onto Gomez. Now it's a 1v1. Biana now holding this down in a post plant, but it's the pre-fire straight onto the stairwell that takes care of Muzi, that final player trying to make an impact. And Magic Squad, they'll scrape by the skin of their teeth in the end.
A close call indeed, but luckily they were still able to play against the yokais just enough by getting aggressive, getting in the faces of NIP, and winning those critical gunfights to force a 2v1 retake for Muzi, which, like you mentioned, he almost ended up winning. The yokai and vertical combination to stop the plant was almost perfect by NIP to get a second round win, but again, Magic Squad, they had the perfect remedy to stop it, and now they take the advantage going back into the basement floor bomb site against NIP, which their lineup looks almost the exact same. It can be said for Magic Squad as well, so I'm really hoping we see NIP potentially prolong their extension up above, as that did give away a lot of opportunities for Magic Squad in the late round.
I like the way that Muzi played that, right? Going down below and trying to deny the plant. You have a pretty good chance to do that, not only because Magic Squad are so focused on dealing with the players on the site itself, but because you had that yokai drone, because you had a lot of intel being relayed from your teammates. That was a great play, frankly. The only problem was, and it was a very, very close call, but NIP just could not keep those bodies alive on the site because Magic Squad emerged from that exchange in a 2 versus 1. There was only so much that Muzi could do trying to work his way into top square and trying to make his impact felt. So well played by Magic Squad to get those trades on the site. Had that not happened, that would have easily been an NIP round, given how adept they seem to be at denying the plant. That was really their strong suit in that round, and unfortunately, it just could not come through in the end. But we go back down to basement. We go back down to CCTV and lockers here to see if NIP can harness some of that energy again, but do it on a different bomb site. Unsuccessful the first time they were here, thanks to a very efficient Magic Squad attack.
Ooh, Gomez getting rather aggressive with those Candles. It already forces Psycho outside of open area and back into the basement, and Hornet is soon to respond right after, so they've got good control of this first and second floor, and at this point, they only need to focus on Pino, who's still blue stairs as the smoke, and luckily with some pocket hard breaches, they can get that hatch opened up for a nice cutoff angle, and Wizard once again playing the same spot over in E2, and again, the question remains, will he fall back early? And the question has been answered with a swift yes, as he's already back in the basement as well, so it's just Pino to focus on in the next minute 20.
See that hatch getting opened up? A view down into the site itself now for Magic Squad, and at any point, right, they could start threatening a push. Ooh, you see that yokai drone also popping up through a hatch to try to identify the positions of some of these attackers, but it's pretty clear at this point of what they're trying to do. They've got to clear these players out of server. They've got to clear that player out of the blue stairs position. If they don't, there's no way they're going to be able to get this CCTV attack going. Finally making the move. It's actually Pino to get the opener, but Hornet will be sure to get the trade. Oh, Wizard just trying to hang on, but the Candela will land the second time. But nobody finally, Gomez, will push to follow it up. Muzi will also get one back, though, so this one is still even in a 3v3, and NIP are showing that they want to fight this aggressively, continuing to deny this Magic Squad push with only 25 seconds to go. Psycho tacking on another. Rare just has to drop down and do it all himself. Picks up one, looks for the second, but can't quite find it. Psycho takes it, and NIP will tie us up.
Fantastic Kiba barrier placement as well by Psycho to completely ignore the hatch drop and play a decent enough trade to get rid of the person who just shut down Wizard, that being Gomez, I believe, and another attacker pushing down from blue stairs. That call to actually rotate into server by Wizard to help out the smoke and just buy even more time and resources was actually well enough because no one was pushing in from the lobby hatch drop into vault entrance or even the E2 hatch that we saw as the win condition for Magic Squad back in round number 1, which even if they went for that, NIP luckily had info with the help of some yokai cameras just to guarantee no one was pushing there in the final 40 seconds, but it ended up being Magic Squad fully committing to blue stairs and eventually biting the bullet because of that lack of explosive utility to deal with those Kiba barriers.
But I think a good adjustment there from NIP, right? We didn't see that same focus in server in that first round. It was more on lockers. It was more focused on maybe maintaining a tiny little bit of an extension in elevator, as you mentioned before, John. And this time we really saw those Kiba barriers. We really saw that smoke. We really saw all of that utility being utilized to hold down server until the end of the round. That was the focus, and because Magic Squad chose to go that route, because they didn't go for the sneaky kind of back take into lockers that we saw in that first round, I mean, essentially Magic Squad walked right into NIP's plan and exactly into the utility that NIP were hoping for. I get that Magic Squad were trying to vary it up. They don't want to run the same attack twice, but NIP were more than prepared for it. So we go back to open area now to see if NIP can do this defense successfully again.
Small opening made over by the printer wall just to look for maybe an opening kill if someone's a bit too aggressive inside of open area, but nothing to find once again for Magic Squad, still in the 5 versus 5, and now beginning to set up a long angle for the late round in case someone's maybe trying to creep back up the marble stairs to get back in through beepers perhaps. So once again, no opening fight to be collected just yet by Magic Squads. They're still gathering a bit of info and looking to deal with that first line of defense. They even locate Wizard, who's also by E1 and could potentially drop down in the next couple seconds, with that hatch being opened up. I'm sure Magic Squad is more than ready to greet him once they eventually get some people in the building off of that open breach.
Here come those Candelas again, though. Early use of this very essential utility. It's forcing NIP to maybe back off the more active angles, but it's not going to do much more than that. This was the most peculiar thing about Magic Squad's attack on open and break last time. They threw in most of their Candelas early, but then didn't actually use them for the eventual execute. I'd like to see Rare hang on to those a bit more here. Keep those in pocket for when the push comes in. Again, we see some early progress from Magic Squad, but this time Pino was ready, knew that Hates was coming, and held the perfect angle to shut him down early. I mean, a minute to go, Magic Squad, they've lost one body.
I really wouldn't be surprised if Wizard will still just play over by that second elevator as well, because so much time has already been wasted. He's been building up magnets the entire action phase, and Magic Squad has still had no response to deal with them. Here comes the creep up by Hornet, a very important 1-for-1 to win, but now he's so low on HP and NIP, they still have plenty of info on where this Ashe is playing.
An essential 1v1, but now Hornet's going to have to do more than that, trying to walk into the main double door and getting fried by Pino. Psycho will tack on for another. That's Gomez removed. Rare gets one back, though, but NIP, they are putting on a show now. Magic Squad struggling. It is GDN, the last alive. His position is known, bottom square, NIP. All they've got to do is sit back and wait for GDN to make the move. Nothing he can do because Khans is sitting right behind him. Somehow, GDN will get that kill, whipping around for the nice 180. But at the end of the day, it won't really matter other than to pad the stats. It's NIP who succeed with their open area defense once again and actually take the lead for the first time on Bank, 3-2.
Good job by Pino as well to help assist Wizard, who was playing over by the second elevator. Just able to guarantee that if there are several attackers trying to force back this Wamai, it's not going to be everyone just focusing their attention on that person who is not essentially trapped because they have a hatch fallback, but also just making sure that you've got another person who could take another gunfight to win. That bought so much time for NIP and slowed down the entire execute by Magic Squad. Even the players who were over by square that were ready to start taking gunfights and getting into the objective, they really couldn't because Magic Squad had made no progress on the other side of the map, and it really showed. They were just sitting ducks waiting for NIP to start swinging and taking engagements, and they really didn't until the final 20 seconds where they were just in their element.
But a great start from Pino, right? And that's really what allowed NIP to thrive in that round compared to still a round win the last time they were on open area, but I wouldn't say it was the prettiest. They were frozen, kind of trapped on the site rather than having that freedom to hunt for those kills. And like you called out, John, Wizard like repositioning over to Marble Stairs, something that would not have been allowed in that previous open area defense, given the amount of control that Magic Squad took so quickly that time. Opener from NIP, Magic Squad, they were on the back foot the entire time rather than it being the other way around. So Magic Squad, one more attack to go, one more round that they'll be looking to secure, and they'll have to do it on the top floor. CEO is where NIP will be heading for their final defense, and they'll be looking to hold this one down a little bit better than they did last time. If you recall, last time it was all about plant denial. The combination of music from below and those yokai drones up above was a really efficient way of denying Magic Squad from making that diffuser actually go down, but they still had a lot more to do. Good start, though, from NIP this time as music gets the opener, but quickly traded from Magic Squad.
So not having those Otero drones alive to help destroy Kibas or even deployable shields towards a late round is going to be very beneficial for NIP, especially since all that they lost was an Oryx. Sure, he was very important last time the site was in play to be, a little bit of vertical denial with the help of those yokais, but so far it looked like NIP were trying to utilize that bit of information to maybe go for a run out, but so far it seems that has fallen on deaf ears in the first half of the action phase. But still, getting rid of that Flores is going to be very impactful for the rest of the utility that's still building up, especially for Psycho and this Azami.
Rare's trying to find some early pressure here. Jump out, Psycho denied. Rare was ready for that. Oh my goodness, a bang bang play that Psycho looked like he was gonna win, to be honest, because Rare was busy opening the window, but may have just been a little bit of a bait. The Ashe was more than prepared. So, Magic Squad, they've retaken the advantage, and they've done it now by 2, as Rare will pick up another. Khans will end up getting one back here, and Rare will give his life away. Pino was ready. Cons has been lit up by a frag grenade here, so the pressure from Magic Squad is certainly starting to build. But here's the big problem. No more hard breach for Magic Squad. They're going to have to do this one the old-fashioned way by getting these kills. Hornet gets that one onto Pino, has to find the trade through the wall, and he does. Magic Squad, a kill-hungry round, and one that works beautifully.
Rare once again being able to assist his teammates, making sure no one's going to get a double run-out kill for free, eliminating that potential threat, and then instantly playing off of the open window to try to hunt down for more picks. As if you're able to keep that Echo alive and comfortable in the late round, he will punish you. We almost saw that back in round number 3 where they narrowly scraped away a 2 versus 1 retake because the Yokai just burned away so many seconds and gave that player of Musi a lot to work with back in round number 3, but I mean, Magic Squad, they completely flipped the previous round on its head when they went back to that top floor bomb site. They got hyper aggressive trying to score the opening gunfights early on, which originally didn't work out, but they were still very sufficient on trades. And the second they did enough on the render repels, they still re-acknowledged the original threat of that Echo playing by Janitor. So both the Lion and Ash rotate to deal with it at the same time and play as a team perfectly to even the half.
I like what Magic Squad showed us there in that final round, because up until that point, right, they had won 2 rounds, and both of those rounds they had won as a result of their ability to play objective focused siege. They got the bomb down. In both the rounds they won, the diffuser was planted. NIP, when they were winning rounds, they were denying that objective focus. The diffuser was not able to go down in any of those other situations here. So Magic Squad in that final attack showed us that they can also win the round in that frag dominated mentality, that they don't need to get the bomb down, that they can also hunt for kills.
Yeah, I think the willingness to adapt is definitely a good sign for a new and upcoming team. I don't want to say completely new because they have had some experience inside of, the B series for Brasileiro last year, and they have played against a couple of top teams in the past, but this is still kind of uncharted water for them in the new Brazil League. So again, their willingness to adapt against a top level team like NIP, it's a great sign. And some of that adaptability, it did fail them, like back when they were trying to be a little more, headstrong when dealing with that server extension, for example. But in other instances, like last round, it worked like a charm.
Well, you mentioned NIP top level team. I think we're gonna hold off
we'll
on making a judgment
there. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Last week didn't go so well for them. Liquid again, 7-1 against NIP. But no, you bring up a great point, because NIP, they are hoping that this is like a redemption year for them. I mean, NIP, Ninjas and Pajamas, that used to be one of the most dominant teams, not only in this region, but they were more than competitive on a global scale, right? The fall from grace, though, last year, shifting into 2023, this is a year of refocus for them, for this organization, and it's a time for them to prove themselves, especially week 2 after a tough loss week 1. Truthfully, Liquid may have just been that good, and it may less have been a reflection on NIP and maybe some of the problems that they're having, but Magic Squad, right? After seeing the way that NIP lost last week, if Magic Squad want to establish themselves as a front runner, not only in Group B, but in this league as a whole, I mean, they need to win this game. They do. It's 3-3 right now, and they have to come out on the second half and put on a clinic. NIP, on the other hand, right? It's less about proving themselves compared to Liquid, because we already saw that last week, and this is not their first play day, but it's more about bouncing back and showing that whatever happened last week is not their team identity.
And to reference the Liquid match once again, we had to put a bit of a connotation on NIP's defensive rounds because they only played 2. They just did not do well enough in their attacking half to play a long, flushed out game on Villa, which, funny enough, against Liquid they did in the past. They narrowly won that match, or at least brought it to overtime when they lost 7-5 against Team Liquid. But Liquid were just so clinical on their own defensive rounds. They punished NIP for the smallest things, like only having a Jackal to play by himself for his own info with the Inox scanners, which doesn't sound bad enough, but if you're not something like a Nook, for example, you can be punished heavily for roam clearing completely by yourself and taking isolated 1-for-1s. Their mid rounds were also very choppy as well. They would spend a lot of time clearing out specific parts of the map, which would then cost them the flounder and the execute. So now moving on to NIP's attacking half, again, if we don't see that ramp up of activity by them throughout the whole round, because Bank is a gigantic map, we could see Magic Squad take away a pretty clean second half since they kept things ever so close in their first half of that.
Yeah, John, you highlighted an important stat line from last week, and that was right NIP's struggle on the attack, really characterized by a poor entry game. Liquid punished
Yeah.
them as they worked their way into the building through the first 4 rounds of Villa last week. It was 4 entry deaths for NIP. They just struggled to get their footing on the map, and I mean, as every caster will tell you in Siege, every analyst will tell you in Siege, right? Those entry picks have have such an implication on the
Mhm.
remainder of the round and really shape who is going to at least start off the round hot and usually have the advantage going into the late round, assuming you can stay coordinated, play your trade game, and kind of whittle down the man count of your opponents from that point forward. But good to see that we're back into the game. Looks like that rehost has been taken care of. So we now shift into the second half here as we are all tied up at 3-3. Magic Squad shifting over to the defense. But I think, as we've already said, John, all eyes are going to be on NIP and if they can remedy the attacking issues that they had just 1 week ago.
Seems based off the lineup here by Magic Squad, NIP are going to have to deal with a lot of confrontations in the early round. This defensive comp by Magic Squad doesn't really scream like they want to anchor a whole lot. Sure, they have, G&D or GDN, pardon, on the smoke, but Magic Squad are also extending all the way on the top floor. They've got several impact grenades as well to make a couple of rotate holes. And look at this aggression by Rare. He almost scores an opening gunfight on the main hard breach of this round, but luckily Cons is just barely able to survive and get on the top of this roof just to make sure that Magic Squad cannot get away with tomfoolery, going for a bit of a spawn peek over by E-Box.
Going for several different points of aggression, actually. Hornet in a spot where he could potentially just send himself out a window and hunt for this kill. Magic Squad applying a lot of early pressure. I mean, this is that kind of LATAM playstyle that we've come to love, but it's that high risk, high reward style that Magic Squad are trying to debut right now. If you find these kills, you can shut down the NIP attack before it even begins. But now your positions are exposed. You're in a little bit of, I would say, a predicament, because NIP, they know where you're trying to get aggressive from. And if they can sneak somebody into the building and surprise you on your flank, just like that, the advantage will swing in the favor of the attack. Right now, NIP are taking this slow, though. They're taking this patient, and they're trying to figure out where these few Magic Squad aggressive defenders are positioned so that they can take them out.
NIP realizing how futile that top floor extension is, so they'll just opt to go with the first floor clear instead and maybe force the roamers to try to fall back down below. But so far, they seem pretty content with just playing up above and utilizing these vertical angles to maybe look for that first opening kill, which Rare and Hornet are so close to achieving. And there it is. The P90 strikes on the Wizard's head, and the Capitao is shut down. Hates for another as he's playing by top squares and hits the retreat.
Backs off to safety. Smart call now because it's a 5v3. And I think we're going to see the rest of Magic Squad likely take up a similar philosophy. Maybe not, as it turns out. Hornet's still going to hold in CEO. You've still got your Oryx of Hates staying aggressive. They are going to keep contesting these gunfights, considering that they're winning them. I guess why not? You've got this advantage, so NIP, they're going to have a much tougher time of getting anything done. The one danger, though, is leaving the site too exposed.
And Psycho as well, especially with these Candelas too, could play for an awful executor, even just trying to push back some of these defenders. But Rare, he's going on a massive flank. This could pay dividends.
There's one. Get the down and get the finisher. Psycho knows his only hope is to just blitz on into the site, so there he goes. Candela's at the helm, and he will just pounce on into the objective. And Musi now will try to guard the flank a bit, as they know Magic Squad have to rotate back down to site. Unfortunately, Psycho gets caught out from behind, and even though Musi can pick up one, he will not pick up two. Magic Squad showcasing a completely different defensive philosophy than we saw from NIP on the first half. And I gotta say, John, it worked wonders.
It was perfect against the way NIP were trying to clear out that roam extension, you saw a complete lack of a top floor clear because they just couldn't get drones into the building against that Solus. They had no info to try to get on those window repels. It was just simply too much of a risk for NIP. So they try to change things up last minute during the second half of the action phase. They try to push in from places like lobby, like the bottom part of square, to maybe, look for other opportunities to take those gunfights. But that just gives even more of an advantage for Magic Squad as they're completely aware no one's on the top floor. So they can reavert their focus now onto the first floor, and they play right into the hand of that aggressive roam extension we saw by Magic Squad. Not only that, but again, having all those different impact grenades, you can make rotates almost instantly to set up new angles to take even more gunfights in the late round, which allowed people like Rare and even Hornet once again to try to recontest players over by the hatch just to guarantee NIP couldn't even get the plant down at a man disadvantage 4-on-2.
I think for all of the, casual players out there or competitive players or people who are hoping to be competitive players, I think the shift between the first and second half defensively, it's a fantastic lesson because we just saw Magic Squad debut a polar opposite defense than from what NIP did on the first half. Thinking back to the first half, NIP on that same exact objective on the basement site, they put in a tiny little roam, a tiny little extension just into open area, maybe a little bit of elevator presence, a little bit of main stairs presence, but we didn't really see them go on that top floor. They played to anchor on the site and they played to defend the execute. Magic Squad right there, it was extreme extension, extreme roam mode. They were all over the map and it worked just the same. It was a completely different way to play it, but it also had its benefits, right? As we addressed, the risk there is that NIP could read into that and maybe go straight for the site. But more often, NIP are going to have to clear those defenders out. They're going to have to clear these clearly competent gunners out of those positions, and that is not easy to do, as Magic Squad just showcased to us now. But we're not going to the basement again. Magic Squad, they won that. So now we're going to go up top, and they cannot do the exact same thing given that there is no top floor to hold. If you want to roam, if you want to extend on this site, it's more about extending your presence across the entire top floor rather than across different levels of this map vertically.
Magic Squad now willing to adjust their composition once again. Like you mentioned, there is a huge lack of roaming when it comes to this top floor bomb site, so they're using a lot of utility close to the objective, trying to bundle up as much as they can around those castle barricades to make sure that window repel isn't going to be as strong for NIP, but it looks like they'll find new opportunities to work for the opening gunfight. Hates is already going to get shut down by Wizard holding a nice angle towards the bottom of Gold Stairs, and it seems like a big focus here by NIP is getting that lobby control so they don't have to completely rely on those window repels, which again, given the context of how Magic Squad is holding in this round, it makes perfect sense.
Rare's got to be careful here. Almost overexposed to the player on the rappel. Spotted out here by this drone, so Pino knows that once this angle can be found, I mean, this kill is surely to fall soon after. But Rare's got these Kiba barriers, quite a bit of protection in this instance, so not too much to worry about. But on the other side of things, Hornet's getting torn apart. Rare's been flashed and has no idea where the cover is, so he gets taken care of. And NIP, oh, they're looking clean right now. Gomez, that aggression was beautifully read into by Psycho, who read him like a book, and just like that, it is the smoke of GDM, the last player standing, and Psycho will not let that stand for long. A flawless round from NIP, bouncing back from a bit of a misstep and clapping Magic Squad through and through.
NIP taking no prisoners on round number 8 and having everything accounted for in that attacking clear as well. They noticed how much was being invested into those window repels, so they only get the sledge on that position, so we can also counteract some of those castle barricades that might be on the windows directly, or Kibas that are being thrown at him mid-round. He has an almost immediate hammer breach to get that out of the picture and reopen those sight lines that are oh so potent against Magic Squad's position on that anchor. Not only that, but having people on the side of NIP like the Flores getting rid of that stock shield, being able to hop into the building from that direction, having the Kanto wall opened up as well, so Wizard could eventually work for that opening gunfight and start creeping up Gold Stairs with the help of that Iana. All of that combined together really binded Magic Squad into an uncomfortable position that they couldn't fight back for in terms of trades because they have all these longer angles that they have to try to challenge, with NIP just refusing to lose those gunfights.
Well, John, this one showing us that, well, this is going to be quite a matchup. I mean, 4-4 on Bank right now, back and forth throughout this entire map. Would not be shocked if this one goes the distance at this point. Neither team showing us that they can really establish themselves as the dominant force as this map continues to develop. We head now to Magic Squad's next attempt at defense. Going to open area and break room here, and as expected, seeing a little bit of that first floor extension from this defense. That's Rare right now on the mute, taking up a position in tellers, a couple of jammers at his feet, in addition to the other roamers that are positioned up above. You see two of them, those orange outlines indicating you've got both Hates and Hornet contesting this early top floor entry from NIP.
And already so many drones off the board, 5 drones in just about a minute flat. And now you see Magic Squad already doing so much damage to that drone economy, they begin to fall off, but they still have info if need be to work a pick. I believe Rare is still playing over by, I believe it was Archives a second ago with that C4 and shotgun combination. So he could really challenge this buck of Pino if he wants to.
Yeah, always dangerous to take these vertical fights, but like you said, a nice little shotgun and, well, a nice C4 can absolutely change the course of that engagement and swing what is generally considered an advantageous position up above into a very dangerous position as you are walking on lava. You are just tiptoeing around some explosives as they come sending up towards the floor below you. But still, no one yet to make the move. The first frag not yet found, as Magic Squad have shifted into a little bit of the more passive phase here in round number 9. As you've said, they've taken care of 7 drones out of the 10 total that NIP have to work with, so they have shifted back to the site and are waiting for this push.
Gomez being the perfect hard counter to this Ying, similar to what NIP brought out in their defense. Here comes the drop by Psycho, no diffuser in hand, but he still takes a 1-for-1 against Rare. A double kill now lines up for the Ying. Gomez shut down. It's a fluid execute by NIP as they're up 4, only leaving Hates having to retake.
Yeah, Hornet's down. Hates is the last one who can do anything about this push from NIP. Finds 1 kill, but it's not going to matter too much. Swings out into the open, gets the kill onto Pino. But now his position is telegraphed. Bullets coming from just about everywhere, and he is not going to make any more progress into the site. NIP, they take their time up above. They wait for that opportunity, and once they saw it, it was the Candelas to send into the site, and then it was the attacking pressure to follow it right up.
And with the Ying just being able to isolate Rare without Gomez punishing him, that was really the win condition. If we had the Warden be a bit more aggressive there, the Ying is the one to fall. No one else was there to recover from that hatch drop. That was the only person pushing in from that position. That just limits the angles that the defense has to worry about in those final 40 seconds, and maybe having those roamers come back up a little bit faster to hit the flank could have also been a great adaptation to make sure Magic Squad can win essentially that tertiary or secondary bomb site of Kitchen Room. But again, NIP's almost perfectly timed execute with everyone moving in a synchronized fashion was more than enough to get that 9th round in their back pocket, despite having, like we both mentioned, a bit of a slower attacking clear on that top floor. But again, because the bomb site wasn't the basement, it didn't matter as much.
Right, that was the open area break room defense from Magic Squad that they were hoping to hold down, and as we just saw, it did not work out very well. Another dominant round from NIP, really swinging the momentum heavily in their favor now. Magic Squad, they need to find that defensive success again, and thankfully for them, right, the basement site is now unlocked. They can head back to lockers and CCTV and attempt to showcase that heavy roam that worked so beautifully in that opening round. The difference is, of course, that now NIP are going to be prepared for it, and they can make a pretty clear decision once this action phase begins in the next 5 seconds. They can choose to take that top floor control and try to do that same attack like we just saw 1 round ago with the success of the skeleton key from the Buck, those Candelas from above. Once you open those hatches, all hell can really just break loose on the site below. But of course, they could try to adjust a little bit. They could try to focus a little bit more of a direct horizontal push into garage or into CCTV from the server side. There are other options here if NIP are scared of this top floor hold. But already, John, I think we're getting a pretty clear idea that NIP are not going to be fazed by what they saw in that first round, and they are going to contest this roam head on.
Hornet once again being that first line of defense on the top floor, rocking the Solus. He'll begin to reposition those. A drone just located where he was playing at. But again, it still seems like NIP are a little worried about trying to deal with Hornet directly, so they might try to look for a new angle to challenge that first defender on this top floor. You see how many people are trying to play on these rappels across the map in case they can cut this defender off guard and maybe work a free opening gunfight without even having to enter the building properly. A second yellow ping will locate where Hornet's currently lying in wait, but Musi can't quite find an angle, so it'll have to be a little bit more aggression by the people across the map, and there it is. Perfectly timed flash, and Pino gets a 2-for-1 because of it. What a play by the Buck to completely shut down the top floor roam.
Yeah, Hates and Hornet kind of just lined up for the Buck as Pino just repelled in. That's 2 kills, both on the repel. A very tough position to get frags from. That's extremely well done and sets NIP up beautifully for the remainder of round number 10 and could potentially see them working their way to match point momentarily. Rare's gonna feel the pressure next as the top floor above him gets torn to shreds. The C4 finds no purchase on the attackers up above, and Magic Squad, they are now on the back foot. We're seeing a 3-man garage push though. They really want to get Musi out of here, and they do. That's a kill, but they're gonna have to find a lot more than that. Still the man advantage in the favor of Ninjas in Pajamas.
Perfect gamble, though, by Magic Squad. Now with no one pushing in from garage, they don't have to worry about that flank last second by any kind of lurking attacker, and they can completely re-advert their focus back to this server and hatch execute, which so far, NIP, they still got 30 seconds to gather more info. They're waiting for the perfect moment, essentially, to strike, and they don't even have to use the Kairos charges because the wall's been left soft.
Psycho now trying to get something going. Like you said, NIP, at any moment they could pounce. Rare feeling the pressure through the smoke, trying to get this kill. He does! He wasn't noticed! Oh. That's 2 kills! Just like that, the man advantage completely turned on its head, and Wizards gotta make a move, drops down into his death. Psycho, 1 HP, and he is out of time! Magic Squad, the gamble pays off, and they managed to come back in round number 10 that looked like it was lost from the start.
And that is the kind of proactivity you need to see from your Warden. Sure, you've got a smoke to deny the default plant, but the Habana adjusted accordingly, trying to hop in even deeper into the bomb site, playing off of that smoke grenade to try to deny both the actual Toxic Babe and anyone else who could potentially stop that plant. But luckily, Warden of Rare being in the right place at an even better time, shuts down the Habana, gets 2 for good measure, and now it's complete chaos on the bomb site with NIP trying to retake at a disadvantage, and they still can't see Rare correctly because he's just hiding in the smoke grenade that their own team threw to try to get that plant down. I mean, just the perfect definition of bringing the right op for a perfect situation.
I mean, John, you rarely see Warden be that clutch. I mean, Warden's great in moments like that, right? When you're pushing blue stairs, you've got smokes and flashes in your face, you can just sit there and take it, but rarely is the entire outcome of a round so just on the back of that Warden player. So well played in the end from Magic Squad. And yes, a clutch operator selection and perfectly employed to deny the NIP execute that otherwise would have been thunderous and rather successful, if I do say so myself. So like that, again, it's tied up. This back and forth map continues, as it may have looked like NIP were going to run away with it there for a moment, but they have since settled down, and Magic Squad have put them in their place. 5-5 as we head into round 11.
NIP looking to once again try to better adapt against some of these aggressive roamers in the early round. They've now got cons on the Dokkaebi, which can also help assist with any wall denial if there were operators that could do that on the lineup here for Magic Squad. But no, it seems like they're bringing much more anchor-focused defenders. They've got a Mira Doc combination as well. Really interested to see where Hates is playing it. I believe it would be Kanto. Yeah, that seems like the final resting place for this man, as even if he gets naded out by someone, which luckily there are no grenades, he can just stim himself back up and just be a juggernaut so long as he can, just not get headshot.
Right. First time we're seeing the Doc in play. And yeah, the classic, most important Doc philosophy. You can take some bullets, just not to the head. Otherwise, you can heal yourself back up. You can totally get back into the fight and, well, live to really pester the attack another day. 90 seconds in, and we look to the progress of NIP, which is, considerably slower than the last time they were here approaching this top floor. They were in pretty quick, getting some good early kills. No doubt slightly slowed down by the presence of the Doc and by a couple of more active Magic Squad defenders here. But as you can see on the rappel, as soon as NIP get one or two of these defenders exposed, they're certainly going to find a kill here. Oh, look at that. It was the Ying of Pino already inside trying to get something going, but it didn't work. It was initially denied, but NIP have since found 2 trades and equalized this. Rare now on the hunt for a kill and a well-placed impact to down and finish off Psycho. Means that we're back in a 3v3.
Things now trying to stabilize once again for NIP, but really low on options in terms of trying to get this diffuser down. Sure, they've broken the mirrors with the help of Psycho on that Twitch, but still have to worry about that C4. It's going to be ever so deadly, and now the diffuser's dropped over by front desk, if not the bomb site itself.
Yeah, wait a second. The Zofia is in. Muzi's looking to take a fight, but Gomez denying the presence of Wizard. It's going to make this one much more difficult for the final NIP attacker. No way that Khans is going to get revived here. Magic Squad, they're going to read into that and deny it. At least you would think. You should hear this sound. No, Magic Squad didn't move. They let the res happen. And now let's see if they let the diffuser go down too. Khans 50% of the way, nearly finished, gets it down, but is now stuck in a 1v3, and it shouldn't matter either way. There comes the crossfire, and the bullets will eventually connect. Magic Squad choosing to play that a little more passively, and while risky, ends up paying off in the end. And as much as we were praising the NIP momentum and the footing that they had begun to establish on this map, John, it is not NIP with the first match point. It is instead Magic Squad, who have still a chance to put this away in regulation.
Able to claw back once again from the clutches of defeat, off the back of, once again, having the right operators for the job, assuming that NIP will try to bring out the Ying once again. They still have a Warden being rather aggressive on those window repels, which is normally where your Ying will try to play for a CEO attack. Once you lose Pino on that roll, a lot of your space making is essentially down the drain. And the one major difference there for NIP is they had a severe lack of presence over by front lobby, over by someone, trying to walk up gold stairs. That didn't happen towards, until the last 30 seconds of the round, which eventually that player, I believe was Khans, ended up just getting down to the middle of the bomb site. So in the logistics of things for that round, Magic Squad didn't have all too much to focus on in that round, except for that last second rotation over by top square, which the Solus almost perfectly denied. And like you mentioned, Jonah, sure, it was a bit of a gamble to play a bit disciplined in that 2 versus 3, allowing that plant to go down, but also they pushed together so well, it almost nullified any kind of chance of someone on NIP trying to hop back outside to play a window repel during that post plant. And even if that happened, they had a C4 to potentially counter it, and also 3 bodies to have maybe 1 or 2 of them hop out the window while the other one disables that diffuser.
Yeah, like you said, they knew the risks. They knew that the only thing they truly had to prevent, because they had the man advantage, was preventing one of those attackers from getting outside, from getting on the rappel, from establishing a better post-plant position. Essentially, as long as Magic Squad kept those final few attackers trapped in office, kind of stuck there in that crossfire, like you mentioned, John, there was nothing much that NIP could do. So it is match point for Magic Squad. A chance to close out Bank here on round number 12 and get the full 3 points from this contest. Pino will get lit up here, but oh no, it's actually Rare to fall first. Wizard reading into the position of the cap can. Hates also his position telegraphed as NIP That pressure is really starting to become overwhelming for Magic Squad, as now 2 of these defenders are dropped and bound to be finished off soon enough.
I mean, what a play by Wizard. We saw Magic Squad trying to play off of some of those window angles by Lobby to help deal with that position by CEO, and luckily Wizard is able to counter it perfectly, even throwing a nade to down Rare. He luckily gets picked back up, and Hornet sweeps wide to get a kill into Psycho. Things are technically even, but Cons, he's got no clue someone's by Marble Stairs, and Hornet gets away with highway robbery as he begins to descend back on the first floor.
I don't know how Hornet's able to get away with something like that. I mean, you've got 2 NIP attackers pushing your 1 position. In theory, if NIP played that a bit closer together, they tried to push as a unit, that would have been an easy kill, but instead it was 1 by 1 that they walked into the open arms of the Warden. 4 kills for Hornet now, and those 2 kills especially, very clutch and very vital to keeping Magic Squad alive after a troubling start. That also has allowed Rare to get picked back up. It looked like 2 opening kills for NIP. Instead, it's 1 opening kill and 2 trades back the other way.
And now with the Yin gone as well, Psycho eliminated, that's almost all the stopping power NIP could have used for this execute, and they have got to get desperate. Almost little to no info as well, so they've also have to walk line at a man disadvantage in these last 30 seconds, Jonah.
Yeah, these Kiba barriers under the table there. It's GDN to just hold that ruthless angle and shut down Musi. It's now a 2v4. Wizard knows that if this kill is not found, this round is pretty much over. There goes the Nook, dropped and finished. Pino cannot land the headshot onto the player in break. This one looks like it is all over for NIP. Magic Squad, a hard-fought 12 rounds, but finally, they take a few rounds in a row and put NIP out of their misery. 7-5 the win here on Bank, and Magic Squad have certainly made their Brazil League debut with a bang.
And what really gave them the upper hand against NIP, Jonah, it had to be the adaptability.